Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the Wellness Revolution. Would like to introduce everyone on here tonight. I'd like to introduce Marvin Ropp. He is a former Navy SEAL. He has been in longevity since when, Marvin?
Since 2002.
Okay. And we have David Hall here, who is an expert on vitamin G, gravity supplementation. And we'll talk about that tonight. And then we have, of course, Doc G on with us. So with that, we're going to begin talking tonight about gravity and our health. And the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that we want to talk about the signs of life first, okay? Simply because of the fact that they have to do. It'll have some relevance here as we go on. The definition of life is a character or quality which distinguishes an animal or a plant from inorganic or dead organic bodies, and which is especially manifested by metabolism, growth, reproduction, and internal powers of adaptation to the environment. The property by which organs of an animal or plant or organism as a whole are conceived as maintained in the performance of their functions, or the state in which all or any of the organs of a plant or animal are capable of performing all or any of their functions. The signs of life are evidence of the intelligence of life. The signs of life are the evidences of the powers of intelligence, and there are 5 principal signs of life. Let's examine those signs of life. Number 1 is assimilation. And assimilation is the intelligent ability of a cell to discriminate what comes into it, okay? Now, I want you to kind of think in terms of, let's pretend that you're in a bathtub and you have both food and sewer water in there. Now, that's kind of a crude illustration, but would you want to assimilate everything in there? No, you wouldn't. And why do I bring this up? Well, your interstitial fluid in between the cells has both waste products and nutrients in it. And your cell has the ability to discriminate what to bring into it and what to eject out from it. And that's the power of assimilation and the power of excretion, the ability of the cell to determine what it needs to eject from that cell into the interstitial fluid. And of course, that is controlled by the nerves. The nerves give the cell the ability to do that discrimination. If you have nerve interference, it will cause the cell to assimilate the wrong things and to excrete the wrong things, or to fail to excrete the right things. So with that, we have adaptability is the 3rd sign of life, the ability of our bodies to adapt to the environment intelligently. And then there's growth, and there's reproduction. Those are the 5 signs of life. And I think you'll see some of the we'll discuss some of the relevance of all of these as we go along. Now, we wanted to talk tonight. Our subject is the gravity in your health. Gravity plays a crucial role in maintaining the health of our bodies. Even though we often take it for granted, its effects are so deeply ingrained in our biology that we can't imagine life without it. Let's break down the importance of gravity for our health. Number 1, the circulatory system and blood flow. Gravity helps regulate blood circulation. When we stand or sit upright, gravity helps blood flow downwards, particularly to the lower parts of our body. The heart has to work harder to pump blood from the lower body back up to the heart, which keeps the cardiovascular system functioning properly. Now, one of the things you want to think about is the importance of laying down at night, because I remember when I drove from Kalispell, Montana down to Davenport, Iowa one time. It took me 36 hours, and I drove straight through without stopping or resting. And when I got there, I was very frightened because my lower legs and limbs were swollen. Okay. And it was because of abuse of not having rest in between. So it's important that we have some horizontal time. Bone health. Gravity provides a constant force that helps our bones stay strong. This force is known as mechanical loading. It stimulates bone cells, osteocytes, to maintain bone density. The more weight-bearing activities you do, like walking, running, lifting, the more your bones are stimulated to grow denser and stronger in response to gravity. Okay. Uh, in in environments with reduced gravity, like space, astronauts experience a decrease in bone mass because there's less mechanical load on the bones. This condition is called spaceflight osteopenia and shows how vital gravity is for bone health. Prolonged exposure to microgravity can lead to significant bone loss, increasing the risk of fractures. Muscle health and function. Gravity also helps maintain muscle mass. Muscles are constantly working against gravity to keep us upright, move, and perform various functions. The posture muscles, which are the muscles that help us stand and sit straight, are especially affected by gravity. If we were in a zero in gravity environment, these muscles would weaken over time because they wouldn't be needed to support our body weight. Similarly, gravity plays a role in muscle tone and strength. Without it, our muscles would become weaker and less able to perform everyday tasks. That's why astronauts often have to exercise intensively while in space to counteract muscle atrophy. And then they are in trouble sometimes afterwards if they're up there for a prolonged period of time in terms of having to actually counteract what they've have experienced in space. Okay. Fluid balance and kidney function. Gravity helps our kidneys process fluids more effectively. It helps with filtration of blood, the removal of waste, and the regulation of fluid balance. In microgravity environments, fluid can shift within the body, often accumulating in the upper body and face. This can cause problems with fluid regulation and lead to fluid retention. On Earth, gravity ensures that fluids naturally settle in the lower body when standing, and the body uses gravity to help clear waste products, such as when we urinate. This function would be compromised without gravity. Fluid balance and kidney function. Gravity helps our kidneys process fluids more effectively. It helps with I think we covered that already. Sorry. Spinal health. Now, this of course is at the heart of chiropractic. We have talked about the vertical axis, the importance of restoring the body to the vertical axis of gravity. The force of gravity has a direct impact on our spine, helping to maintain its structure and alignment. The discs in our spine are designed to absorb the gravitational pressure we experience daily. When we sit or stand, gravity compresses the discs, but it also helps maintain the proper curvature of the spine. In zero gravity environments, the lack of compressive forces can lead to spinal issues such as reduced disc height and back pain. Posture and joint health. Gravity is also integral in maintaining proper posture. It helps us naturally align our joints and muscles to stay upright. Without gravity, we wouldn't have the feedback needed to properly align our bodies. And this is something that David is going to talk about in a little bit here, how gravity actually affects, how we align how the proper alignment of our body. This can lead to problems with joint health, as improper posture over time can lead to strain on the joints and ligaments, especially in the knees, hips, and back. Development and growth. From a developmental standpoint, gravity is essential for proper growth and movement in the infants and children. Babies gradually learn to control their bodies and develop muscle strength through their interactions with gravity, such as crawling, standing, and walking. In environments where gravity is absent, children would not experience the normal physical growth patterns, which could result in developmental delays. Balance and coordination. This is really important. Balance is a complex skill that depends heavily upon gravity. Our inner ear contains structures that help us sense orientation relative to gravity and allow us to maintain balance. The vestibular system helps detect shifts in our position, helps adjust our body to stay stable. Without gravity, our sense of balance would be disrupted, making it harder to control movements or react to changes in our environment. In summary, gravity is essential for circulating blood and maintaining cardiovascular health, keeping bones and muscles strong and functional, maintaining proper kidney function and fluid balance, supporting spinal health and posture and joint alignment, and promoting proper growth and physical development, and helping with balance and coordination. And that is it. That is the reason gravity is important. And Dave, are you there?
I am.
Okay.
Just grabbing a letter Dr. Hanks wrote concerning spinal fluid movement and the advantage that this has to offer. It's good.
Good. So what is your background, David? How did you get into being you are a vitamin G expert. You are the expert on supplementing gravity. How do we supplement gravity?
Well, we need to harness gravity. And when we harness gravity more effectively, we can utilize that gravity to work more effectively within the body. And what we've done is we've created a piece of equipment that changed my entire physique and my health, has done it for tens of thousands of people all around the world. And it harnesses gravity. It utilizes it. The forces of acceleration, deceleration, and gravity. In 1911, Albert Einstein said the human body cannot tell the difference between the forces of acceleration, deceleration, and gravity. To the body is simply gravity or weight. So what we did is we harnessed three forces on the body instead of one. And in the process of harnessing those forces, we were able to create an enormous amount of increased circulation, making it easier on the heart, back-flushing valves, opening up capillaries, breaking up sticky blood cells, challenging our balance and equilibrium, something we often associate with age. But I often ask people, do you know anybody that was born with balance? No. Balance has little or nothing to do with age. It's a physiological function. We can challenge it by harnessing gravity, doing different movements that moves fluid past the stirrup, the smallest bone of our ear, and also our vestibular balance, and challenging our proprioception. So balance, rhythm, timing, dexterity, hand-eye coordination, we can improve that at any age. But you said something early in the program, which I totally agree with, that our cells are imbued with an intelligence. Every cell of our body has a copy of the DNA. Our cells know how to create, maintain, and heal the body. Quite frankly, better than any doctor or health practitioner. They're essential, they're helpful, but some of the very best doctors we work with are the ones that harness the intelligences within the body to help the body do the job it already best knows how to do. We're facilitators. We have the ability to supplement, to provide what the cells need so they can do the job they best know how to do. You mentioned, as far as cellercise, it changed my entire physique. It changed my entire health. And so people began asking me what I was doing. I started teaching them. They started getting results. I was invited to speak before various different clubs and organizations. I did that for a few years, woke up one day and said, why am I selling insurance? And took it out on the road. So for the last 35 years, I've been teaching people an entirely different methodology of exercise. We're the only species in the world that has bought into the current paradigm of exercise. You'll never see a dog, cat, monkey, or any other species out there pumping iron, weight, or doing a lot of the insane programs we see on television. Nothing wrong with it. It's just a manipulation of the body. It's not natural. What I call cellercise. Cellercise is exercise, but it doesn't tear down to build up. It simply increases the weight of gravity rather than lifting weight away from gravity. With typical exercise, you lift the weight away from gravity, you tear down to build up. They say do it every other day because the body literally has to heal itself. But when we cellercise, we increase the weight of gravity over 100 times a minute, and the G forces are on the cell membrane. When you apply resistance or weight to a cell membrane over and over, the cell is going to respond by fortifying its membrane with more protein. It doesn't want to rupture. It doesn't care where the weight comes from. It doesn't care how sophisticated a piece of exercise equipment is. As long as you're challenging the cell's going to adapt to the challenge we give it, but we don't have to tear it down to do it. So cellercise is a non-invasive way that virtually everybody at any age can strengthen muscles, bones, connective tissues, ligaments, tendons, skin, collagen, fascia, because we harness gravity. We utilize gravity to create this pumping action. The weakest area of circulation, as you alluded to, is in the lower extremities because it's the furthest area from the heart. It's harder for the heart to pump that circulation, so people are prone to varicose veins, edema, swelling in the lower extremities. But when we cellercise, we literally pump with the heart. We move the fluid through the one-way valves so we can increase that circulation back up to the heart, making it easier on the heart while we're getting all the benefits of exercise or cellercise. My program has been 10 minutes a day, and I've done that now for, well over 30 years. And I don't do any other form of exercise. I don't have time. My business keeps me very busy. But when you read the customer reviews and you see what it does for hip problems, knee problems, back problems, circulation problems, you mentioned the kidneys, so important for good health. Harnessing gravity, we gently move up and down, and we add a little twist.
Now, let me ask you this. What is different about the cellercise? Do you have a picture of it that we can see or that you can upload or something there? There should be an upload thing where we can just literally see it on screen here.
We probably do, but I can show it.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
This is a cellerciser. It uses
tell
tridaptable.
us what's tell us what's unique about it, because I was very impressed with this, because the thing I love about this is that it doesn't shock you at the bottom, and add a lot of resistance when you're jumping. So that's
what I travel around the world with. It's a little carry case with a pull-out handle. It uses patented technology. We have a tridaptable spring. The steel in our spring is so strong, it won't stretch out, which is important, because when you get on a unit and the steel is too weak, it looks the same until you stand on it, and then you sink.
Yeah.
If it doesn't have enough lift or resistance, you're not getting the pumping action, and you're not getting the support. So the steel we use in our...
You didn't always have springs like that, did you, in yours, when you first started?
When I first started, I introduced the barrel-shaped spring. You mentioned NASA, you mentioned astronauts. When they're in outer space for 2 weeks, they can lose up to 15% of their bone and muscle mass. So I got to know some of the people who did those studies, and they passed on now. But when we were working with them, they did work on trampolines that created G forces. They're just not very safe. If you land wrong, it'll throw you off. When the mini trampoline industry came out, they used little tube springs. Those little tube springs never represented NASA's research. They didn't create deceleration, acceleration. They would stretch a little bit and then stop very abruptly. The abrupt that's what was going on when I entered the industry. And so
your mat is different too. Your mat is tell me about the mat there.
It's made here in the United States. It's a specialized space age mat material that will not stretch out. So you get the canvas non-plastic mats that look the same, but the mat stretches with the spring, and then your feet pronate every time you land. They turn in. They don't have good support, and so they can roll. That's not safe, and over time it leverages the weight against the joints. I just spoke to somebody today. They have a unit that I told them a month ago. I said, okay, if you want to do it, you can, but be sensitive to knee problems and hip problems and ankle problems, because if it's too soft, it doesn't support you. He called me up today and got a cellerciser. He said, you are absolutely right. What our mat material is a special polypropylene where every single fiber is put under nearly 200 tons of pressure. It is so incredibly dense. You can leave it out in the sun, the rain, the snow. It doesn't matter. It's UV resistant. I've had one outside for 18 years by the barbecue. We still use it. But our mat material will not stretch out. So you land anywhere on it, it lifts you straight up. So if you want to leverage your own body weight, let's say you want to target the stomach. If you're jogging on the cellercise or you're lifting knees up, that's great for the core. But when you do that and tilt backwards slightly, now you're leveraging your weight. Your whole body is tense the entire time you're tilted backwards. But now you're adding an increase of weight through the movement up and down, or while you're jogging, or while you're kicking your legs out in front of you, you're leveraging more weight. And that works the whole abdominal wall from under your chin, frankly, all the way down the front. But the whole body is still working. It's still weight bearing. That's why it takes a lot less time. We have an influencer. She's on YouTube, and she was comparing different mini trampolines on the market. And I told her what to watch out for. What makes a good unit? You have to have resistance, but movement. You don't want to jar, that's damaging. And you don't want it too soft because that puts pressure on the joints, but the cell membrane never perceives the need to strengthen itself. So you get more and more pressure on the joint. And you have to have both. And she ended up looking into different companies, called the different companies, decided to get the cellerciser. She used it for 3 months. And then just a few months ago, she called me up. She says, David, this thing's incredible. I said, I know. And she said, no. I mean, it really is incredible. I said, tell me. She says, all I do on it is what we call the baby bounce, the health bounce. You gently bounce up and down. And every cell is expanding, contracting, and it's gentle, but still it's weight bearing. And she says, I'm losing inches. I've got muscles toning up, popping out. I feel great. I'm not doing anything. And I said, well, let's think about it from a conventional perspective. If you took 30% more weight and you lifted it away from gravity, and you did 100 arm curls a minute, and you did it for 10 solid minutes, would you feel that in the arm? And of course you would. But now you got to do all the other body parts. Most people don't have time for that. When you get on a cellerciser and you increase the weight, not by lifting weight away from gravity, but by increasing the weight of gravity, the cells don't know the difference. So you're moving up and down. Every single cell is expanding and contracting with weight on it. And I said, you're not lifting 30% weight away from gravity. You're increasing the weight of gravity by 30%. It's not just on your bicep. It's on every single cell. And you're not doing it 10 minutes a day. You're doing it 30 minutes a day. Who does that? She got it. And cells don't care. The movement up and down is on every cell.
You can literally feel the meat on your body if the tissues going up and down relative to your skeleton. It's like they're, you can feel the stress, but the gravitational change between your muscles and fat and things like that, and the bones. And you can just literally, you're exercising everything there. And it's done in such a way that's so beneficial for the body, because you can overdo yourself in exercise, but with the cellerciser, it's like it's a built-in safety factor there. It's like, because and it's this oscillation between, you said it before, I heard you talk about in the past about going from 0 Gs to 2 Gs. That's where I got the idea for gravity supplementation.
Yeah.
Because that's really what you're doing. You're doubling the Gs. I mean, let's say that we lived on a planet that had 2 Gs. What would we be like? Would we be stronger?
You bet.
I believe that God created us exactly the way, with the world the way exactly it should be, with the gravity we have. But going from zero to that oscillation, from 0 to 2 Gs is really what. And the interesting thing is, with the baby bounce, the frequency increases because the distance isn't so great.
Right.
Anybody can baby bounce.
That's right.
And children love this. Did you raise your children on this?
Absolutely.
Tell me what it did for them.
Oh, we've got all my kids. They've all grown up. My daughter's 40, my oldest daughter now, and she's in great shape. My son is 17. He's in great shape. They're all in fantastic condition. My grandchildren are some of the most coordinated kids I've ever seen. Virtually all of our kids, they all grew up on the cellercise. One was almost born on it because the moving up and down opens up circulation and flexibility through the body. And my wife had a 10-minute delivery. She didn't really even know to go to the hospital. Everything performed very well. And we've had some great customer reviews on that very thing as well. But you mentioned the lymphatic system. You mentioned bone health. And you're so right. The movement up and down pumps the lymphatic system. It doesn't have a heart. So if we want to improve the immune system, improve lymphatic flow, that gravity, the harnessing of the gravity from weightless weight over 100 times a minute. And you're right, you don't need to jump higher. You jump high, that's for trampolines, that's for tricks. It's fun, but it's weightless. You're just floating. Cellerciser, the benefit comes when you're closer to the mat and the intensity is greater. So the valves are opening and shutting more. The cells are flexing faster. And that's how people get great results. But the lymphatic flow, when you get on the Cellerciser, there's a technique I teach about twisting where you gently move up and down and add a twist. You're targeting the smooth muscles. Who does that? The digestion, elimination process, critical for health.
Yes. We have a question here, David. Is there a weight limit to the Cellerciser? I'm a little heavy and my brother's like over 400 pounds. Thank you.
Okay.
So that's a very good question.
It is. It's 400 pounds under warranty. Now we've had people over 400 pounds use it as well, but up to 400 pounds under warranty, we have a tridaptable spring. That's the technology. You have a larger diameter in the middle of the spring, then it has a ridge where it tapers, and then another ridge where it tapers again. The ridges separate the spring. So most people that are lighter weight are going to be utilizing the center portion of the spring. If you weigh more or you jump higher and you need more spring, then it graduates to the next ridge and the next tier and so forth. The whole objective is to slow you down and speed you up without ever coming to an abrupt stop. That's how so you get the G forces, the weight bearing exercise that gives you the benefit, but without any of the detriment. And that's
and I don't think you'll weigh 400 pounds for long if you get a Cellerciser.
And you're not going to do anything crazy on it. When you're 400 pounds, we encourage people to do the gentle baby bounce, open up circulation, then spread the feet apart, do the Jamba walk, repetitions of the Jamba walk. The Jamba walk was where, again, we spread the feet apart, bend at the knee, keep our back straight and push down, left, right, left, right, left, right. I demonstrate on the website too, but that Jamba walk is the precursor to the Jamba run. But you're using the big muscles. We're turning on the big engines. The big engines have the greatest demand for fuel. They're like a Ferrari versus a Volkswagen. You've got the big engines on. That's the thighs and the buttocks. We harness them in a way using gravity and using the Cellerciser so that those muscles are working hard to burn fuel, and we do repetitions. So initially, the body's going to go after the glucose and sugars. That's the most readily available energy source. But ultimately, as we've depleted through the repetition, the glucose and sugars, now the body needs more fuel. It's going to go after the white adipose tissue. That's our stored fuel. And then it starts to burn that off. And people say, well, how can I target and reduce? How do I get rid of my six-pack? And I said, well, you do the Jamba walk or Jamba run, but we can't target reduce fat. We can target muscles, but fat is more of a genetic coding depending upon your genetics. Your body is predispositioned to go after certain areas first. Now people carry it in their chest, their back, their hips, their waist, the stomach, the thighs, the buttocks. Depending on your genetics, the body goes after these fuel sources. Now, it may help in all of the areas at the same time, but predominantly it goes after certain areas. So my daughter wanted to lose it in her thighs and buttocks. She lost it in her chest first, and it worked her way down. The last place to get it was the thighs and the buttocks. But that's okay. It works from the inside out. So we accumulate fat under the muscle too. Cellercise is working on all of it so that far more effective. In fact, Dr. Paul E. DeVore did a study saying that trampolining helped burn calories 11 times faster than walking, 5 times faster than swimming, and 3 times faster than running anyway. So those G forces are 3 forces working on the body. You're not just using gravity. So you harness 3.
Right. Yeah, Marvin writes here that you want to put that back up, last comment. The Cellerciser is very gentle on the knees, hips, and back as we build up the supporting muscles and ligaments around the joints. And that's, as we're supplementing, as you know, with longevity, we supplement those things. And the protocols that Dr. Wallach has literally will rebuild cartilage and tissues. But if you add this gentle exercise within gravity, utilizing gravity, it will improve your posture. It actually, what I've experienced with it is that it increases your awareness of your posture. It's like if you visualize the vertical axis is where the frontal and transverse planes meet. If I can hold my hands in such a way that you'll understand this. I don't know if you can see this very well, but where the frontal and transverse planes meet is where the vertical axis is, and you're jumping on that vertical axis. It will actually, you kind of think like you have a string on the top of your head, and you're bouncing up and down with that string, but you're like a marionette hanging from that string. It actually will make you taller, make you function within the center of the discs, and increase the. See, the thing with the disc is that at age 25 we lose the artery to the disc that feeds the disc as you're growing, and there's a nucleus pulposus, which is a jelly-like center that actually warms up with exercise, and it gels as you lay and cool down. But the only way that you can get nutrition to that disc is passive imbibition from the end plates of the vertebral bodies, so that when you're doing this, up and down thing, it actually causes a squeezing action like a vacuum to bring the nutrients into the disc. And you can actually, I believe you can, I've seen with chiropractic care, I've actually seen improvement in disc just from correcting you to the vertical axis. Well, what happens if you add gravitational supplementation to your regimen on a daily basis? What's going to happen to those discs? The discs are going to improve. And David, you probably have some case histories of people improving with discs.
Yeah, in fact, as Dr. Hanks mentioned, and you're right on. You're right on. Said the cerebral spinal fluid pumping action that is created by spinal joint movement is essential to proper brain function and fluid dynamics of the spinal cord. Spinal disc health is bereft without the constant movement of water into and out of the discs themselves. In fact, this disc of the human spine consists of 80% water. This imbibing of water and nutrients in the spinal disc is wholly accomplished by the body's kinetic movements, which act as a pump. Without such movement in the spine, the discs they starve, literally. Disc herniations and degeneration are highly intensified when improper or inadequate biomechanics of the joint exist. Dave Hall's system goes a long way in inducing and maintaining this most necessary motion in the human body. So we do specific movements that are designed to help feed more circulation to the disc. And the discs are like a sponge. If they don't get enough circulation, as you're mentioning, and they lose the natural circulation by the time we're in our early 20s, we have to do movement to get circulation to the disc. And most of us don't get enough of that. And that's why 80% of Americans are told we're going to have lower back problems to contend with. Well, as the discs lose circulation, they begin to shrink like a sponge without water. We get more pressure on the nerves, less flexibility in the back. When we start to increase the circulation to the disc, it's like a sponge, dried up sponge getting water. What does it do? It expands again. As we get it, it takes time. But as we, you mentioned height. Yeah, I'm 3/4 of an inch taller in my adult life than I ever was before I was, say, 38. So when I started cellercising, so those discs can expand, and the vertebral joints have more movement in them through the different techniques that we do.
Yeah, the thing I want to bring up is something called tensegrity. There is a concept where one vertebra is stacked on top of the other, and they're held together by muscles and ligaments. And when you are jumping like that, up and down, the oscillation, these muscles are tiny. If you've ever eaten a chicken, you go into the spine and it's little teeny tiny muscles. Those all hold the spine together, and cause the spine to function. As you turn, you don't realize that the smoothness of how you move is controlled by these little teeny tiny muscles making, moving, guiding every movement. In the upper cervical spine, which is my area of expertise, there's over 28,000 ways it can misalign. And one of the things I learned that I had to be careful of is losing my adjustment if I jumped too violently, too early. You have to build up to this. You start with the baby bounces over a period of time. I recommend 2 or 3 months of that before you get into, more heavy exercises if you're under upper cervical care. Now, if you're not having anything corrected, then, it's not going to make a difference because you're not going to go out of adjustment. But those that are under NUCA care have to be a little careful to begin with. But by the same token, if you go by baby bouncing for the first 3 months or so, you can't hurt yourself any at all on this thing. And it's,
everything. Yep, you're right. Everything lifts, tightens, and tones the fascia, connective tissues. And there's when you make an adjustment, and I speak I'm talking generally speaking, when an adjustment is made, the muscles and the ligaments, they're not used to that new alignment. And that's what we're fighting against. And just as you mentioned, when you've been more properly aligned and then doing the baby bounce, the muscles that are tight can loosen and the muscles that are loose can tighten to expedite that whole healing process. You're doing it collectively. And we do additional movements that I work with doctors, and I've learned a lot from doctors that we've implemented within the cellercise program to help people that have neck issues, that have back issues, that have shoulder issues. We do specific movements that help open up the rotator cuff while you're bouncing and increasing circulation. So,
I mean, there's talked to a lady today that was in a whiplash a year and a half ago, and is having all kinds of problems with itching in her arms, and that's one of the neurological. See, a lot of times people don't even experience a symptom until anywhere from 12 to 36 months afterwards. People don't realize when they get in a whiplash accident, they really need to be under upper cervical chiropractic care as soon as possible, just because of the way that this impact affects the cervical spine. It forces the vertebrae into really unnatural positions that have an adverse effect on the ligaments and the muscles and the nerves, and must be taken care of. But a proper regimen of exercise on the cellerciser also helps regenerate, it just helps increase the tone of the muscles in the right way so that the motor units can function normally. So, yeah.
And you mentioned bone health, osteoblastic activity. How do we encourage the bones? I mean, we can give the body the nutrients, and this is what longevity offers. If you've got nutrients, you've got communication devices, you have what the elements of what the body needs to be able to perform effectively. But now we have to help the body utilize those more effectively. And when we cellercise, the ability for the cell to absorb, because the cells are expanding and contracting, we're moving fluid, we're breaking up sticky blood cells, we're helping the cells have access to the oxygen, the nutrients, the minerals, the communication devices that the cells have to have at the enzymic level to utilize nutrients and perform functions within the body. And the cellerciser is assisting the body in being able to utilize that. But the osteoblastic activity occurs when we put resistance on the bones. And if we're not
let me explain that to people so they understand. There are 3 types of bone cells. We've talked about this in the past here. There's osteocytes, which are the bone cell. That's the ones with the calcium in them. And the body is constantly remodeling the bones. There's osteoclasts that break the bone down. They tear down the bone because they're going to rebuild. It's just like remodeling. And, if you go remodel a house, you're going to tear some things out, and then you're going to put some new stuff in. The thing that tears the old stuff out is the osteoblast. The new stuff is the osteocyte. And the things that builds the new bone cells is the osteoblast. So what you're saying is that when you have osteoporosis, which is a breaking down of too many, all disease is either too much or too little function. Okay. And, so if you have a loss of bone cells, it's because you're not having enough. Two reasons. Number one, you may have nerve interference. Number two, you may not have enough calcium in your regimen. And it doesn't take just calcium. You have to have all 90 essential nutrients along with it. And so when you're losing bone mass, that's when grandma, they say that she fell and broke her hip. She didn't fall and broke her hip. She broke her hip and fell because the bone got too weak to hold her up, and she had a fall. And so consequently, the osteoblastic activity, when we add the nutrients and add the challenge to the bone through gravity, the body's innate ability is to rebuild the bones. And I imagine, have you had some people that have had osteoporosis that have overcome that?
Yeah, and they've gone from osteoporosis to osteopenia. For osteopenia, they've gotten better. All my family, one of my grandfathers on my wife's side was 98 years of age, and when they looked at his bones, he had the bones of an athlete. It was incredible. My father-in-law, the same thing. His bones are they all cellercise. They all cellercise.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's all due to this. You're right. You have to have the proper nutrients. You have to have the right communication devices. And then you have to challenge the body. The reason the astronauts lose up to 15% of their bone and muscle mass in just 2 weeks floating around in space, so they can, is because the body doesn't perceive the need to utilize the minerals to strengthen the bones. They're weightless. So we have to create need, and that's what cellercise.
Yeah, until they have these big space stations that twirl in space, they have the big centrifugal force thing. You won't be able to use cellercisers up there until they get those up there, right?
That's true. Up there you can't. But they tried to emulate that with the treadmill and bungee cords, so the bungee cords would pull them up. Yeah. But on Earth, we harness gravity and we utilize that, and we can. We're not going to bounce up and down, go floating into space. So so we can harness it effectively, and that's good.
So how old do you have to be to start on a cellerciser?
You can start before you're born, and honestly, when babies love it, they've always loved it. I mean, when a baby's fussy or distressed, you see a parent instinctively take a baby and gently bounce the baby up and down. The babies love it. My wife loved it until the last 3 months of her pregnancy. She still loved it, but we would lie her down on it, and then I would straddle her and I'd gently bounce up and down. And she loved that feeling because it took the pressure off of her back. She felt like it did. And then I could rock side to side, and it's a little massage. And I'm sure the baby loved it. We'd get more amniotic fluid circulation. The baby as well. But we had a lady who she heard me on the radio talk about how cells don't really get old the way we think they do. They're always replacing themselves, but cells can get weak. The good news is we can strengthen and improve the efficiency of our cells at any age. That's what longevity is all about. When we strengthen and improve the efficiency of our cells, we automatically strengthen and improve the efficiency of our body parts and functions at any age. And so we had a lady, she listened to me on the radio, and she got this cellerciser. She uses it for about 3.5 months. And then she calls up the Seattle Times newspaper and she says, "You've got to get this information out to the public." Seattle Times had no idea what she was talking about. They'd never heard of cellercise, but they asked her, "How old are you?" And Ruth Mary says, "I'm 94. They said, "Where do you live?" So they went and interviewed her, put her on the front cover of Section A of the Seattle Times newspaper on her cellerciser, telling her story. She wrote me a letter, sent me a copy of the article. I didn't know any of this was going on. And in the letter, she said, "David, I really think this saved my life." And she explains why. But then she goes on to say that since the printing of that article, the Seattle Times has had more requests for copies and duplications of that article than of any other article they'd ever printed in writing. And she signed it. So, yeah, age doesn't matter. We approach it differently depending upon condition. So if we have weaknesses in the knees, we're going to target the supporting muscles and ligament that support the knee first. When we target the supporting muscles and ligaments that support the knee, we're able to retain better fluid and better support. And very often those issues slowly fade away. So we do specific movements that target the lateral knee, both sides of the knee, and the front part of the knee. We do the same thing with our hips. I could tell you story after story. We had a lady who, I was in front of 2,000 people in Lodi, California, doing a program with Dr. Hans Deal, Dr. John McDougall, Dr. Richard Schultz, all these doctors, and David Hall. I was honored to be among them. I really was. And
I know Dr. Deal.
Oh yeah. Oh God. Dr. Hans Deal, you bet. He's a customer. He got her cellerciser. In fact, Dr. Lorraine Day had one for herself and for her.
Yeah, I know her too.
Yep. We've lectured together and sat together and talked together. She's got a lot of integrity, and then others that were great. But one lady was in a walker, standing there watching me teach cellercise to a whole group of people that had gathered around before I went on stage. And I asked her, I said, "Would you like to try this?" She said, "Oh no, I can't do that." And I said, "Okay, well, if you change your mind, let me know." So I continued to work with the people that were there, and she continued to stand there. So 10, 15 minutes later, I said, "Are you sure you don't want to try this?" And she said, "I'd like to try it." Well, she's seen how I've worked with other people. I said, "Well, let me help you get up." So I had her get up on the cellerciser, hold on to the balance bar. I said, "Okay, let's target," she had a degenerative hip. "Let's target your hip, your muscles in the hip. I want you to spread your feet apart and gently rock left, right, left, right." That works the hip big time. So she starts to do that. She said, "Oh, I can't do that. That hurts." I said, "Okay, let's go back a step. We're going to warm up the tissue first." So just do the baby bounce. Gently move up and down. So she starts to gently move up and down. And I went back to talk to the people. Several minutes later, I looked back over my shoulder. She's got a blank look on her face, and she's rocking side to side now. Didn't think much of it. She got a cellerciser. Didn't even know that. A year went by, and I was invited back to speak again. It was great. And when I was getting ready to go on stage, I had a group of people gather around. I was a little smarter the second year. I had my cellerciser, and I had 2 empty cellercisers on both sides so people could bounce on the empty ones. They were empty. Mm-hmm. I'm talking to a group of people. This lady comes up to me and says, "Can I get on your unit?" Okay. So I stepped off my unit. She gets on, and she starts to run in place. She starts to do the kick out. She starts to do the twist. She does the sit and bounce, some of my most advanced movements. She finished. We all clapped. She knew the routine. She says, "You don't remember me, do you?" I said, "I'm sorry, I don't." She says, "I was a lady with a degenerative hip. You've given me a whole new lease on life." I said, "Would you be willing to lecture or share that?" When I lectured, she said, "Yes, I would," and she did. So it's not age related as much as it is condition related, and how we approach it in different ways depending on what we want to accomplish. So cellercise, I really believe, is the only exercise that can claim to be an isometric for toning, an isotonic for building, a calisthenic for targeting, even though the rest of the body is always involved. You alter the angle to focus on different areas. It's aerobic for conditioning. The whole thing's aerobic. And it's flexibility without ever having to stretch. Because like you mentioned, you're moving up and down. The cell membranes are becoming more flexible.
Yeah, the tensegrity, of the spine, the tensegrity of the spine.
I don't know of anything that can do that. And then we have programs for people that have a hard time sleeping. We have a program for people that have poor digestion, elimination, with that target, the smooth muscles. That's all part of cellercise.
Yeah, and then let's talk about toxins and poisons coming out of your system. Are there ever any reactions of people eliminating toxins and poisons after starting with this?
Yeah, we encourage them to drink lots of water, because the cellerciser, because it's moving up and down with G-forces, but without jarring, but with resistance, it can help dislodge heavy metals, toxins, poisons, preservatives, chemicals, pesticides, herbicides, formaldehydes, drugs, plastics, all these things that can accumulate in different areas of our body. All of a sudden, we're moving up and down. We don't want them to deposit somewhere else. So we drink lots of water. It helps to flush them out. And we've got great stories on that. And we have stories of people that didn't drink a lot of water, and regretted that. And then they drank the water, and then they were so grateful for it. So great stories. So yeah, there's a detox effect.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this. Do you have any testimonials handy that you could read to us there? Did you think to grab some or?
I didn't, but they're on our website under our reviews, hundreds of them.
Yeah.
So you tell me something you want to know about, and more than likely we have a customer who's dealt with it and has a testimonial concerning it. So we have a search menu on our website. So if somebody wants to go after a heart, I'm going to tell you about a heart condition, because cellercise works so well with hearts that I don't know if I still have it up or not.
See, Longevity has a protocol to go along with that, and see if you add those two together, it makes a tremendous difference. We've had a couple programs on how to head a heart attack off at the pass, and I'm thinking, this is just another added thing to help with that.
Yeah, I'm looking at these are all, because I don't know if you can see this. They're just one after another, pages after pages, just on the heart.
Okay.
I mean, bone density, heart. The problem with cheap units compared to the cellerciser.
Yeah, I want to hear a little bit about that, because I bought a $25 Walmart one when I first, I had thought, man, I want to start rebounding, and I bought one of those, and man, it was the most terrible thing. And what a wonderful thing when I finally got my cellerciser. It was so much better. And tell about the bar that is.
Yeah. We have a balance bar that you hold on to, especially when you're getting started, but then it becomes a performance bar. So it's a balance bar initially, so you can get used to the different movements and your body, your nervous system. I mentioned the various different synaptic processes occurring within the brain for balance, rhythm, timing. All of that is happening, and that improves. And then once it does, now we can target more aggressively and focus on some of the areas that we want to by holding onto the bar to create leverage. So, for example, if you do, if you lift your leg up in front of you, down, up and down, that's going to work the thigh and the muscle in that area, but it's just limited to those muscles that are lifting up and down. When you cellercise, you tilt backwards and you kick your legs out in front of you, up and down. That every time you come down with more weight and your legs up, it's going to be far more effective than just lifting your weight away from gravity, because you're also increasing the weight of gravity, and it's still on the whole rest of the body. So having a bar to hold on to, you can lean backwards a little further when you kick your legs out in front of you. When you want to work on the waist and the hips, you can kick out side to side. And when you kick out side to side and you have a bar to hold on to, you're not worrying about falling off. So you're going to get better results or faster results. If you want to work the lower back and the buttocks, you can hold on to that balance bar, lean forward a little bit, and kick your legs out behind you one at a time as you're gently bouncing up and down. And again, that's going to leverage the weight in the buttocks, help to lift the buttocks and strengthen the lower back. If you're doing the Jamba walk or the Jamba run to lose weight, I have to use the balance bar too, because what you want to do is spread the feet apart. I don't know if I can show it to you. Okay. Well, all right. So you spread the feet apart. You bend at the knee a little bit. I've got the back straight. Sorry, that's not really a good. And then
that's all right. It's doing good. Yeah,
what you're doing is you're pushing down into the
that's a killer. That's a real killer.
That's a killer. It really is. But to do it effectively for a period of time, you have to have the bar to keep your back straight, so you keep the weight over the thigh.
Right.
Otherwise, you would.
Well, I found with that bar, I mean, you can, if you baby bounce on this, you start out baby bounce, you just put the tips of your fingers on the bar and you close your eyes, you almost go into a zone, because you can feel the vertical axis of your body, and it just is amazing.
Balance. Yes, you're so right. And it is. It's amazing, because you can feel it. You're aware of your body. I've even done times where I close my eyes and just kind of bounce around in a circle and then open them and see if I knew where I was. But again, you're challenging the balance mechanism while you're doing it. And balance is interesting. Like we talked about, we're not born with it. We challenge it and we improve it. And the balance bar is unique on a cellerciser. Nobody else does this, because they don't really, I don't believe they understand. They're just selling equipment. The cellerciser we work with our customer base, we want them to get results. That's the whole purpose. That's all the support materials. We have something called the Mr. Rebounder app. It's all designed to take people through different routines to reach their objective, whatever that may be. And the balance bar itself, people say, well, it's flimsy. It moves all around. I say, yeah, it's designed that way.
Mm-hmm.
You have what's called static balance and dynamic balance. Static balance is not going to help us. Dynamic balance is what we take with us in all of our day-to-day activities. If you remember as a kid, if you were to stand up on a fence post and you're going to walk across the railing and you've got your arms out to the side and you're balancing yourself as you walk, that's dynamic balance. You're using lots of muscles, proprioception, nerves, all throughout the body as you're balancing. If you were to stand on that same fence post, you're going to walk across the railing, but you grab a pole and you hold on to the pole while you scoot across the railing. You're not challenging your dynamic balance at all. You're dependent upon the pole. That's static balance. That's not going to help you much. You're going to be dependent upon that which you're holding.
Right,
So
right.
The cellercise is more like standing on the fence post. You're walking across the railing, but you grab a willow branch. The willow branch moves. But your ability to negotiate your balance has improved dramatically just by having that branch to hold on to.
Right,
the
right.
cellercise balance bar is like a willow branch, but if you need it to be like a pole when you start, you pull it toward you, it stiffens up. Hold it toward you while it's stiff. But without you even knowing it, as your balance gets better, your hand is just on it. Your fingertips, like you said, are just on it. And now you're challenging your dynamic balance. And that gets better and better and better. We had a lady who was hanging up her Christmas lights one year, and she knew better. She was on her ladder and she's reaching around the corner of her house, trying to get these Christmas lights up. She lost her balance. She's got a wrought iron fence that goes from her house over to her neighbor's yard, and it's got the spikes on top. She knows she's going to get skewed. Yeah, so she pushed off the house, was able to clear the fence, turn in midair, put her hands down on the ground, roll, and stand up. She calls me up. She says, David, there's no way I could have done this before cellercise. I said, I know, I get it. Your balance improves dramatically. She was in her late 50s. So,
well, David, we're getting close to the end here. I wanted to just mention before we close here. I forgot to do this at the beginning, but with these tornado people, the people that have been through a tornado in Texas and Doc, what Texas and
Kentucky,
where else?
Missouri,
Kentucky and
all around that area.
Okay, so let's just have a word of prayer here for those people, if you don't mind. Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we just come before you today to lift up these people before you that have been through this terrible storm. And I pray that you just send your angels to be with them, give them your guidance, give them your peace, and save them from further disaster. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
So,
thank you.
So anyway, I just wondered, Marvin, if you had any thoughts about this, what you've just any final thoughts from you. Having listened to all this, you were very patiently listening. Didn't give you a chance to talk much, but or at all.
One of the things I got from David here is that you increase circulation, and that's basically in sports medicine. If you sprain your ankle, hot and cold, increase circulation. We actually have a turbo cream, and when we have a sore joint or whatever, we apply that to increase circulation. But David, what you're telling us is that this increases circulation through the entire body, not just topical one area. So that's something that's pretty profound. And you've obviously been cellularcising for the last 30 years, and you definitely have got the body to prove it.
Well, thank you. And you're right about that circulation. When I broke my ankle, I was supposed to be in Guam the next week, and it was broken in two. I slipped on the ice and tried to catch myself. You can't do that on ice. Just create more momentum. It's so broken in two places. They wanted to put a cast on. I said, well, I've got to be in Guam next week. Well, you can't go to Guam with a cast on because you're going to be 30,000 feet up in the air and your ankle's going to swell. We can't put a cast on. I said, what else can you do? I said, well, we could wrap it really well and put a boot on it, but we don't recommend that. I said, let's wrap it and put a boot on it. And so I went to Guam, and I'm bouncing around with my crutches. It's very painful. That's the worst trip of my life, being in a plane like that and leg up and down. It was horrible, but we did it. It was well received. I got people from the audience to come up and do different things, but I would hang my foot over the edge of the cellerciser and bounce. So I wasn't putting weight on it, but I was gently moving up and down. The movement up and down helped create and reduce the swelling, and it helped to increase the circulation. It healed so fast. The doctor is now my customer. Couldn't believe it. And I'm not the only one. We've got that story with lots of our customer base. So you're right. Thank you. I love working with sports therapists because they appreciate and teach me the needs that people have, and then I can develop programs that have been effective. So.
And Doc G, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I've been using a rebounder for a couple of years now. After I had a carotid artery, but I'd like to check yours out because mine doesn't do half the stuff that yours does.
It's all right.
Yeah, but it's helped my lymph system. It's helped my gates open. It's helped a lot of things. I had a carotid artery that was clogged 98% over a couple of years ago. And I attribute a lot of this health that I have, not only through longevity, but also through the rebounder. It's made a big difference.
Good. When you back flush valves, so as you're moving up and down, these one-way valves are opening and shutting. Mm-hmm. When they're shut and you move up, it puts pressure above the valve that helps to open up the blood vessels. And as you're moving up and down, it becomes an internal scrub brush. So over time, it can help clear it.
Well, see, I'm David, I'm 63. I don't consider myself a senior.
No, good.
No, but I'm just saying, like, all the ages like change now. Everybody that's older is actually like what we were when we were younger. So I'm trying to go for, as long as possible. But the thing is, I'm going to be 64 in June. I want to maintain this health profile for as long as possible as I can. And I think anybody really wants to do that,
So I had a gentleman call me up a few years ago, and he woke up and he called me up and said, Mr. Hall, I just had to call and say thank you. I woke up this morning feeling great, and I know it's because of your cellerciser. And I said, well, thank you. That was very nice. He says, 20 years ago, you introduced me to cellercise, and it changed my life. I've watched my family, friends, and peers pass on, a lot of them on drugs, medications, poor quality of health. I woke up, I feel great. I'm still enjoying life, and I'm still very active. 20 years ago, when you introduced it to me, I was in my 70s. True story.
Wow. And this is for the guys out there that are listening on the radio, by the way. If you're interested in contact info for Dr. Wiedemann, healthreform90@gmail.com, or text him at 406-270-3754 or www.getdocsmessage.com. All right. Go ahead, Doc.
Yeah. How can people get a hold of you? We had a little code that you said, David, before. You had a gift to offer if they use a code, if they want to get cellerciser. Do you have contact information for them to get a cellerciser if they want to?
You bet. They just go to our cellercise.com website and enter the coupon code. Type in you have a special code word.
Yes, it is DOX. Let me type it in here. X.
Tell me what it is. I'll put it in.
There, we're going to put that up there, Doc.
Gotcha. Give me a second.
We run that across there.
Just give me a second. Here it is. Wait for it to come across. Here it is.
Yeah, DOXMINS. If you contact David with your desire to ask about this, David, you said you would send them something if they gave your email to you or whatever.
You bet. Okay, so if they order a unit, they will automatically get the new fold out. It's a $10 brochure. It's got 24 different movements in it. It shows you the different movements and what those movements are there to accomplish. Because they're on your show, and we're going to give them a free download of our $20 video as well. And in order to do that, they have to type in the code word. Go and order the video. It's called Cellercise, the Ultimate Exercise. So Cellercise, the Ultimate Exercise. And then purchase it, or get ready to purchase it. But in the coupon code, type in DVD on me. One word. DVD ONME. And that will give them that download of the video for free. That will go into more information concerning it. And if they decide to get the Cellerciser, they'll want to use the Docs MINS. Is that it?
Yeah. DOXMINS. Yeah.
All right. And that way they'll get that free exercise.
And of course, yeah, anybody that contacts me about this, I will definitely help them have your information as well, so that we can, help them out in any way that we can, or give them any information we can. Sometimes people need lots of information before they do anything, just like with us. We try to educate before we do anything else. Education is important for us. And with that, the only thought I have is, Doc, can you bring up the illustration that I have on there?
Which one?
The lighter colored one.
This one?
That's what I always close the show through. Of all who claim to cure, there are only three who tell the truth. They are the butcher, the tanner, and the tobacco farmer. Nobody else can cure you. Your body has to cure. Life comes from above down, inside out. And the body needs no help, just no interference.
Thank you, Dr. Wiedemann.
Thank you, everybody.
Yep. Thank
Yeah.
you for the
Next week.
opportunity to share. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
See you next week.